Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to do a PLE reactions video. This time, we are working on Saturday night's main event. The November 1st, 2025 edition took place in Salt Lake City, Utah. The opening match has Drew McIntyre going up against Cody Rhodes, defending that WWE Undisputed Championship. In terms of the match flow, I felt like this one was a bit different. Definitely an angle here with the no DQ, or if Cody gets DQ'd, he loses his title. Definitely a heavy play on that, and I did like that aspect of it. But to me, it just felt like maybe the match was still missing a little something. KP, did you enjoy this match, and what was your rating for this one?
This one was a little difficult to watch purely for the fact that you mentioned already the stipulation being that if Cody Rhodes does get disqualified or counted out, then he does lose his championship. And you mentioned how they played into that. I didn't mind them playing into it at first, but I think that just the longer the match went on, I think it probably was about like 40-50% of the way in. They were still sort of playing into it, and I think they were probably doing it just a little too much, in my opinion. It just really seemed to affect the flow, the general pace of the contest, and it was just extremely slow for a large part of it. So yeah, I definitely think they played into it a bit too much. Like I said, I wouldn't mind it a little bit. That's fine because obviously that's the stipulation. It makes sense to do that, but yeah, I think they got a little bit carried away doing that, and just a shame about the general pace being just too slow for my enjoyment, personally speaking. Gets a point in the end where the referee is down after being squished into a corner after a collision between Drew and Cody. Cody hits McIntyre with a DDT onto the WWE Championship, and that would be enough for Cody to get the victory. So this is a bit copy and paste from a match between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens at a similar time last year, where it would be onto a steel chair on that point, and then that would be enough for Cody to get the victory after hitting a crossroads. So it is kind of very similar here. Like I think there are sort of people commenting saying, that could have been like a tease of Cody turning heel last year. But then again, here we are a year down the line and nothing has really changed. And we're just sort of rehashing similar things, but changing a little bit here and there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy this one. Didn't really do anything for me. And yeah, just it was a struggle to get into the rhythm of because there was pretty much no rhythm to it. So yeah, I don't know. It just felt a bit flat for me, and I didn't really enjoy this too much. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I don't really think I can give it any higher than that, purely for the fact that it was just a nothing match. Like, I'm guessing we're going to get a little bit more coming on from this one. Drew complaining that it wasn't one in the cleanness of manners. There was a little bit of unjust towards it. We know Drew likes to really highlight how he does get screwed and stuff, and I would be very surprised if he doesn't sort of refer back to this as another one of the situations. So yeah, maybe just laying the scenes for another matchup. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, I wasn't particularly a fan. What did you make of this one, Nick, and how high did you rate it?
Well, in terms of rating, I did give it the exact same rating. I gave it a 6.5. Go figure. We rated match the same. Yeah, definitely leaning heavily into that is the no DQ or DQ when you lose your title bid. And I would agree. I think they did kind of play into that a little too much. I think with the ending kind of playing into that too, having Cody take advantage of that with the referee out. I think with that, you probably could have just done it a few minutes at the beginning, had a decent match, and then go into that. But yeah, the match itself just overall felt kind of clunky. I think because of how heavily they were leaning into that no DQ bit and the knee bit where Cody was running up the ropes and the ref got in the way again. Like again, kind of playing into that, playing in it too much. But then Cody was kind of selling the knee injury there too. So yeah, and definitely with the ending, as you said, perfectly, Drew, absolutely. If, I think most people would have, but especially Drew. Drew is going to hammer that hard. He's going to get another opportunity, and basically the same thing I feel like I've been saying for a week and a half, 2 weeks now. This will not be the last match. Drew will absolutely get another shot, and hopefully one of these times. Again, I'm a huge Cody guy, but uh, this run has been stale. Drew deserves it, probably, arguably more than anyone else on the roster, I would argue. So with that, yeah, 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's a bit awkward, a bit clunky. Um, Definitely not the best from either of these guys. Typically, Cody shines, On the mic, not so much, but in the ring is usually when he shines, and he couldn't even do that here. So unfortunately, this was neither of these guys' best. Fair to say. But with that, let's swiftly move on to the next match, which has a now heel Jade Cargill going up against Tiffany Stratton, defending that WWE Women's Championship. We saw a week ago on SmackDown, we saw Jade turn heel and going after what seemingly very much has played up during this match and up to this match is that knee of Tiffany Stratton. And my jaw was pretty much on the floor about how this one went down. Curious to hear your thoughts on this one, KP, and of course your rating.
So we talk about situations in WWE quite often where the moment seems to be there and they don't capitalize. And we sort of think to ourselves, well, why didn't they do that? It was literally written right there. They could have done it, and it could have been a great moment. However, this time they smashed it. They did a cracking job with the heel turn last week with Jade Cargill, and then highlighting that injury, replaying onto it, and just having Jade Cargill come out and absolutely decimate and destroy Tiffany Stratton in this matchup. And you could argue maybe Tiff's reign perhaps deserved a better ending for her, but I'd rather look into the moment that we're creating here, and that is Jade Cargill literally becoming a threat and becoming a visible, you know, powerhouse here that can just destroy anybody, given their moment. And I think this was a coming of age moment for Cargill. It just worked to perfection for me, personally. Um, yeah, I guess you could say that Tiff does deserve maybe a little better, but regardless of the fact, she did show a little bit of fight, and I'd say a little bit because it was a little bit. If you probably had a percentage of the amount of control that these two women had in this matchup, it probably will be about 85% to 15 in favor of Cargill. That was just the general flow of the contest. Jade eventually, once she's done playing around with her food, I suppose you could say, she hits 3 fallaway slams in a row, gets a 2 count. Then she hits 3 power bombs and then follows that up with a Jaded to get the victory here. But it was a great call. It was a really, really good call. Just everything that built up into it. And I say everything. It's only a week of build, to be honest with you. But it didn't really be harmed by that. Like you could have saw this one maybe going in like Tiffany just gets a really fluky victory. But I'm glad they didn't do that because this was dominant. This was a great way to bring her up to a brand new sort of stratosphere, and just it did well for her and her character. So playing off of the injury and condition of Tiffany Stratton, the two just mixed together at the perfect time and just made for a great moment. It was short. I will grantedly say it wasn't a long match, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't meant to be because the moment was meant to be Jay comes out, destroys Tiff, take the title, and we get this brand new champion with Jade in this brand new personality, and just this is the tone she's setting, and now everybody has to be wary of her and what she can do going forward. So consider me very interested. Consider me hooked. I can't wait to see what's next with Jade Cargill. Who steps up to this? Who really thinks I want a piece of that? Because if you do this to the women's champion, who's really and realistically going to want to go at it? So yeah, I'm keen. I'm definitely excited to see what's next. So great moment, great call. I gave it a 7 out of 10 purely for the fact that it was pretty short. But just generally speaking, for what it did, I thought it was the right call, and I'm glad they took the moment when it was there and ready to go. So yeah, what did you make of this one then, Nick? Obviously, you could probably look at it on either side, but I'm looking at it on the positive side. What did you make of it?
Yeah, shocker. I am as well. It is long overdue, and you allude to the fact that the build had only been a week. I'd argue it's been a year because all of what she'd been doing hadn't been working, and so this heel turn coming from all of that pressure to her come here and to immediately shine, and she didn't. And so whether in character and real life, kind of merging the two, her to finally turn heel and then make this just absolutely dominating statement win to beat who was the most dominant champion in WWE. That's it writes itself. You just created a star, and from that match, from the heel turn, capitalizing on what probably should have been done a long time ago. I think that's a pretty fair argument. But yeah, this is great, and I have absolutely no complaints. I see people commenting this was like a burial. Absolutely not. The injury of Tiffany Stratton is clearly, if not legitimate, they're doing a great job of playing it up for it to be. But I think Tiffany has deserved some time off, and I think that's all it is. And hopefully that's all it is. And I think she's earned it. The reign of Tiffany did become a little stale, not to any issues of her, just because there were lack of challengers. And so this is a great mix up for that title. A fresh scene here, hopefully setting up a return of someone else who's been gone for way too long. But yeah, for what this was, the moment, the domination of Jade Cargill is it was a moment, and I loved every minute of it. And like I said, you created a star with this match, and now Jade, completely kind of resets that division. And good luck to anyone who wants to step up to her, because I think in terms of how this match went, like you said, wasn't the longest of matches, but is perfect for her style. While Jade continues to hone the craft inside the ring, I think this is a great kind of style of match for her to have. And especially now as a heel, it makes a lot more sense, because you can be angry that she has these short matches, but she is dominating because that is kind of the heel role she's put herself into. Loved every bit of it. Can't, like you said, can't wait to see what comes next. I just went 8 out of 10. No, not the best match and or the longest one, but in terms of a moment, this was absolutely one that I don't think any of us will forget anytime soon. With that, moving on to the next match, we have the Intercontinental Championship being defended by Dominik Mysterio, of going up against both Rusev and Penta. KP, we think we both had high hopes for this one. I know I did, especially. These guys have been putting on pretty good contests, week in, week out in between each other. How'd you like this one? Getting all three of these guys in the ring, I think the outcome was about what we thought it would be, but how'd you like the match itself?
Yeah, the outcome was exactly what we both said. So I guess you could say, no real surprises there. But I thought it worked out pretty well, to be honest with you. I think that it was very much a case of, I think, calling this one exactly how it was going to be. So you could say maybe a bit predictable in that sense, but I still enjoyed it. For what it was, I thought it did a good job. It basically just allowed Penta and Rusev to cancel each other out, which, again, I think I highlighted in the predictions video for this one. And I think no sort of detriment to either of them, but Dominik Mysterio just continuing to build up his character and to win because he finds these really unique ways of going about it, any means necessary, and just absolutely just making sure that he gets the job done regardless of what he needs to do. And he did that again in this one. So just playing to his character very, very well, and just getting a little slimy, cheeky victory. Just coinciding with that one. Yeah, it just works out for him, to be fair. I think they did a good job with it. Rusev's got the accolade locked in on Penta at one point. Dom rings the ring bell, which obviously, Rusev then thinks he's won the matchup. He eventually finds out, though, it's Dom ringing the bell, so he goes out to chase him down. Dom manages to take out Rusev momentarily before getting into the ring, and he goes to try and get the ring hammer, but Penta stops him from doing so. He's got his foot on the bell, or on the hammer. He attempts to hit Dom with the hammer, but by this point, Rusev's got back into the ring. Dom ducks underneath, and Penta just slams the hammer into Rusev's face. Dom then dispatches a Penta, gets rid of him, hits a frog splash onto Rusev, and that would be enough for him to retain the championship. But it was a decent match. Like I said, a bit of a uniqueness the way that Dom managed to get the victory in the end, navigating that 1-2-3. I liked the way they did it, and they keep coming up with these fresh little ways of doing so, and it is just basically the modern day Eddie Guerrero in that respect. So yeah, it put a smile on my face watching him just find these cheeky, sneaky ways of getting them victories, and I'm all for it. I really, really am. So yeah, I thought that Penta and Rusev, they even had a moment in the match where they had a bit of back and forth. Thought it flowed really nicely. Thought it did well, and just generally enjoyed that particular part as well. So yeah, I thought this match was great. I think it was my match of the night. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. It didn't set the world on fire. It didn't reinvent the wheel, but it was a good triple threat, and it did what it needed to do. So yeah, no real issues from this one. It just wasn't anything spectacular. So that's basically just where I sort of like draw the line on that one. But yeah, 7.5, I think it's pretty good. And just generally speaking, did enjoy this one. Nick, what did you make of this triple threat and Dom's unique way of retaining his title?
Yeah, as you kind of alluded to, in terms of the result, was pretty much exactly how we expected. However, I did love the throwing the title I believe it was to Rusev, and the ref's like, "What are you doing? It's a no DQ." That got a good chuckle out of me, as did the bell ring, and just kind of his picture there in the bottom left hand corner. Dominik kind of just sitting there like, "Yeah, that was me. That was my idea." That got a good laugh out of me as well. Dom's just entertaining. The character work from him is obviously top notch. And then you have Rusev and Penta, going at it. Really, there's no wrong you can do here. I would just argue that eventually Dom probably needs to get rid of the title, but we've had longer reigns, a lot less going on with them. So I think maybe that's just me wanting to see, very badly wanting to see either Rusev and or Penta winning that IC title. So I think it's kind of exactly what you want to have happen. You hate Dom because he's a slimy heel. Well, most people don't hate him clearly because they're chanting "Dirty Dom" the entire time he walks up and stuff. So yeah, just for me, just wanting to see someone else with the IC title is, I think that's a me issue and not really a Dom or WWE issue. But yeah, I thought this one match was a little fun. Brought great aspects in ring work, and then had some new kind of unique things going on as well. I don't really think anyone looks weak here. Dom just once again somehow finding a way to better men in the ring that, in my opinion, are clearly better than him. And I think that's kind of what's frustrating about the whole thing, and the character, and I think why it works so well. So I too gave this one a 7.5 out of 10. I think the biggest issue I would give is just didn't have as much time as it could have, and I think you could very much probably have drawn some time from the main event. Not to give away too much from the next bit, but I think you probably could have taken some time from that event to make this match kind of go from the good range to the great range, and I think that's kind of my only kind of nitpick there. With that, let's move on to the next segment, which is right before the main event. We do get a John Cena announcement announcing a tournament, which is the last time is now tournament that will finish with the finals taking place at that December 13th Saturday night main event. The kind of way he announced it was, and KP, please clean up anything I'm missing here, was a 16-man tournament from the likes of Raw, NXT, SmackDown, and then he even alluded to, to let everyone kind of speculation go wild that maybe someone who doesn't even work here. So clearly, speculation is up in the air with that one. If that means something as simple as AAA or TNA, although AAA is on the WWE, I suppose now, but TNA. Or it could maybe mean something just a little bit more. So yeah, curious to get your thoughts on this one, KP. I think this could be a lot of fun, and I think it's probably the best way to kind of build something up. Why Cena, obviously, his appearances are very limited to this point.
Yeah, this is a really unique way of just bringing out a last ever opponent for a certain person. Obviously, being John Cena, the legacy that he has, the career that he's had, being the last competitor for him in the ring is going to be an extremely big honor. So whoever does come out, winning this tournament is going to have a pretty big role to play. Is just being the last ever opponent. That's a huge accolade to have. So yeah, very excited for whoever does get the victory here, and does eventually go one-on-one with Cena at that Satellite's main event in Washington. So yeah, it's going to be a big moment regardless. But yeah, you basically nailed it on the head. It will include Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and also people who don't even work for WWE. So that is quite interesting. I think you pretty much summed it up very well. Probably will mean it's going to be TNA or AAA talent in that little last sort of skeptical situation there. People who don't work for WWE, that allows the mind to just completely go wild, right? So yeah, I would assume it will be AAA and TNA superstars, but we'll see what happens. 16 men doesn't give for an awful lot of talent, but it is a good number still. You can split that quite nicely across those different categories. Whether it's going to be 4 and 4 and 4 and 4, I don't know, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But some names that were in the video package that they played whilst he was talking about, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whatever superstars that are going to be competing. I did notice that Drew McIntyre was in the vignette for this, which is quite surprising. I'm hoping that he does have a say and he's out extremely early, or he just isn't involved at all. This is just placement names. But I did also see Gunter involved in the package, so that's quite surprising because obviously he's been out since SummerSlam. We haven't seen him since he lost to CM Punk for the World Championship. So could he be in this competition? Could he be involved in the tournament? maybe he will be. But they were just a couple of notable names that I noticed there that I think could be ones to pay attention to in certain aspects. So yeah, interesting to see who does compete for this one and who eventually becomes his last ever opponent. I can't believe we're a month or just almost a month away from that last match. It's gonna be one of those surreal moments for sure. I don't really want it to end, but I guess everything comes to an end at some point.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and yeah, a little over a month to build up to it. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think Gunther and Cena would be all time. Would love to see that. But yeah, we'll just let WWE cook and see what they can come up with. Hopefully, Cena has a bit of a say on that. With that, let's move into the main event, which has Jey Uso going up against CM Punk for that vacant World Heavyweight Championship. Kind of alluded to it a bit with the IC match. I think this match went a little too long. Um, you know, I would. It's safe to say that neither of the men in the ring are our favorites. So does that come into play here? For me, it did. But KP, do you think the right man won here? And what were your thoughts on the match and, of course, your overall rating?
So yeah, I do think that the right man won. When you've got CM Punk and Jey Uso in the ring here competing against one another, I think CM Punk is the lesser of two evils. I think, personally speaking, at least CM Punk has some wrestling ability and you can enjoy his craft. Jey Uso, on the other hand, yeah, you can't. Oh, well, I certainly can't say the same thing for him. I'm very much not a fan of the guy. But yeah, did I enjoy the match? No. No, I did not. It was kind of like watching you like your uncle and your granddad going one on one at the family barbecue for the last burger. It just didn't really seem like it meant an awful lot, even though it was for the world championship. And it was just two guys completely out of it, and just I don't know. It almost felt like you were watching it in half 0.5 times speed. That's what it felt like to me personally. So yeah, it was extremely slow, extremely sluggish. There's a point where Jey Uso botches a neck breaker from CM Punk. He over rotates and almost sells like a DDT. And then he gets like a really like solid kick from Punk afterwards. I did a bit of frustration there from CM Punk, obviously, making the move look bad. But yeah, that was quite funny and noteworthy that I had to bring that up. But yeah, it was finisher heavy as well. I don't know how many GTSs were involved here. I saw like it was probably about 4 or 5 in the end. It took CM Punk after hitting his 5th GTS, I think it was, after hitting 2 in a row by the way, to eventually get the victory over Jey Uso. So I'm pretty sure he hit less on Gunther to win that world championship, and that's Gunther. So yeah, I was quite surprised by that. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this one. It was it was pretty poor, and there was just not an awful amount of quality, especially from Jey Uso. It just didn't really feel like anything he brought to the table was important. So yeah, Punk winning is the right call. It makes sense. It's the logical choice given the two superstars. I just wish this was LA Knight instead. I really, really do. That would have been perfect for me. But obviously, we can talk about that, in spades. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but that's just what I would have rather have had from the situation. But it is what it is. There were lots of kickouts, raised the tension towards the late stages. Maybe for some pretty dramatic moments towards the final stages. There's a point where Jey Uso almost won the damn thing by hitting his Uso splash after a spear, but thankfully Punk did kick out of it in my perspective. And yeah, the last 2/3 of the contest were quite back and forth. It was quite heavily dominated by CM Punk in the early stages, but it did come to be a little bit more back and forth. And there was even a spear through the barricade from Jey Uso onto CM Punk at one point towards the late stages as well. So yeah, it was quite long. I think, like you said, you alluded to the triple threat maybe having it could have got a bit longer than it did. Maybe could have took some time out from this main event. And based on how this match went down, I would agree with that. I think they could have had a bit less time with this one, but yeah, it's unfortunate. It wasn't a great main event and was a bit sloppy and sluggish, so didn't really enjoy it so much. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Was in my opinion the worst match of the night. And yeah, when you got the vacant world championship on the line, it's kind of a shame that these are the two best guys at the moment that are that the company are willing to put on show to win the title. Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. What about you, Nick? What did you make of this one?
It just it was very slow burn, and emphasis on the slow. Felt like I liked your example, just like going at half speed and I can't really argue that. It felt like the first half of the match was just they were just practicing. It was very slow, and it just honestly found myself hard to pay attention to this one. Um, I don't dislike Jay as much as you do, but I think I dislike Punk more than you do. So it kind of just balanced each other out. I just didn't. I think that plays a part in here too. Like I just don't really care. I didn't care who wins. I obviously preferred Punk to win, but it wasn't by, like you said, the lesser of two evils. It wasn't because I think Punk deserves it at this point in his career. I honestly think he should be winning titles. That's just my personal opinion. Um, but like you said, these are the two guys that we deemed worthy of taking Seth's spot, who's absolutely killing it. So, yeah, it just feels like a giant step down to me. But alas, CM Punk is our new World Heavyweight Championship. I like the guy. I like everything he's had to go through. The fact that he's back in WWE now, I like that kind of comeback story. I like this moment for him, getting it longer than a few minutes. I like that aspect for it. I like that for him. Um, but yeah, I don't see this being a super long reign. But it was a good moment for CM Punk, and I think that's kind of all it was. As far as the match itself, yeah, it was by far my least favorite of the night, and unfortunately, when that ends up being the last thing you see, it always puts a damper on the event overall, and I think that's kind of what it did. I feel like the Jade and Intercontinental match absolutely should have been one of those two, should have been the main event of this one, but alas, here we are. So I guess went a 5.5 out of 10. I'm sorry, I just didn't. It was just very boring to me, and outside of the last third where it finally started picking up the pace, the audience kind of looked the same. Looked like they kind of were all bored out of their minds for the most part too, up until the last kind of third, maybe. I felt like, to me it finally got interesting, and even that was like, we're just trading finishers, which is what has been one of my biggest nitpicks of Punk, is how many finishers that man takes. But now this time both of them taking him. So yeah, it just kind of is what it is. I just don't love the we went from one of my favorites in Seth holding that title, to now, these two guys. So just maybe I am a bit bitter, but I think you would have a hard time telling me otherwise that this was a good match, and telling me it was a good match, because the facts are it just wasn't. So with that, we will move on. This was Saturday Night Main Event. Positives being, we have another week of recaps coming up. We have now we're prime and getting ready for Survivor Series, which is just under 4 weeks, so not too long for that. One of the longer builds in terms of the year. We usually don't have a full month or close to it, so we'll just quickly pivot to that, and we'll hope that we can right the ship quicker than not. But with that, Saturday Night Main Event, KP, final thoughts here. Match of the night, I think you already alluded to, but just hit that one more time, and your overall rating for the show. And hopefully the next Saturday Night Main Event, obviously being John Cena's last match, will be a little better ending.
Yeah, well, you'd like to think so. Probably can't get much worse than what we saw from Punk and Jay. But in just general respect for the Saturday Night's Main Event that we just obviously have been talking about here today, yeah, I don't know. It was okay. It had a better feel to it, purely for the fact that it didn't have ads going through the matches, which is quite nice. They put the ads, in between matches, which is something I can be perfectly fine with. I can deal with that. So at least I was able to sort of like enjoy the flow for what I could do. But yeah, just I don't know. A couple of matches were decent. Like, I thought the triple threat was good. I thought that Jade's coming of age moment was fantastic. And then you talk about the two world championship matches from the men, and honestly, they just didn't deliver. They just weren't anything to take note of, really, and were a bit disappointing in their own right. So yeah, not particularly too happy with those two, but I guess it is what it is, really. I gave it a 7 out of 10 as an average of my ratings put together. I feel like that's probably being quite generous here, but that's just the general, average rating between the four matches. So that's how it comes to be, I suppose. But yeah, it's one of those events that we can take a couple of positives from, and then we look forward to the next one. Survivor Series War Games, that sounds great to me. I can't wait to see that one take place. And yeah, that's our next bit of focus. So we'll have to see what goes down for that.
and I really don't have too much to add to it. I think, my rating overall was 6.75, but, very heavily weighted by that Intercontinental title and WWE Women's Championship match in that moment that Jade Cargill had. That, for me, is the highlight that I walk away here. Everything else kind of felt like it was kind of, house show worthy for the most part. Even though there were 4 title matches on the line, I thought maybe we would have a better show than what we did. So I think my expectations have maybe been a little too high. And then I think that Punk Jade match just shouldn't have been the main event, even if it was for the title that it was. I think in the and, at the end of the day, you want to put on the last match. That has the excuse me, the last match should be the highlight of the evening, and for me that absolutely was not the case. Actually, it was the polar opposite. So with that, Saturday night's main event is in the books, and like I said, we will quickly pivot on to the next week of weekly television and the build for Survivor Series. If you like what we're putting out here, please let us know in the comments below. If you disagree with us, please let us know. We'd love to hear that as well. Anything you can add to our videos, we appreciate. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as well. But in the meantime, please take care. And for now, this has been the latest episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.